Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Special Edition with me, Nathan Oakley, and joining me this evening is Ranty for some absolutely smashing Flat Earth evidence. First and foremost, let's just introduce Ranty. How are you doing, Ranty? Good to have you.
Doing good.
Excellent, excellent. So, this is fresh off the presses, straight from your P900 to your eyes and ears out there in YouTube land. Tell us what you've caught.
Well, apart from Shark Boat, which I might actually just play this now because it's quite funny. It's this was done a couple of days ago, and I went down to try and see Barrow in Furnace after the chemtrail blitz on Friday. And every day that I've been down, I've not been even able to see the wind turbines, let alone Barrow, because of this sort of like white haze on the horizon. Couldn't see past it. You could barely see 3 or 4 miles. But this boat was quite funny, so I'll just play this. Watch it's opening its mouth, closing its mouth, opening its mouth. This is Shark Boat. I think it's quite funny. It's obviously down to refraction, but you can actually see the refraction in motion at this point. Anyway, today, so I went along again to try and see whether or not I could replicate the footage that I caught, when would it have been? A couple of weeks ago. I'm going to show you the video now. This is me right next to the incoming tide, and the problem with today was it was very, very windy. It must have been gusting at 15 or 16 miles an hour. Trying to focus on on Barrow and the buildings and stuff was quite difficult. However, it seems that getting lower allows you to see further. It is really weird. I did some videos prior to this where I was a little further up the beach, so at a higher elevation, and I wasn't getting as good a clarity as what I was at this particular point right next to the water here. So the waves are cresting at about a foot. My camera tripod is set to about 1.5 feet, so I'm literally looking right across the very tippy tops of the water to maybe 0.5 foot to a foot or so above the actual water at the time. You'll have to excuse the shakiness of the camera. That was simply down to the wind buffeting the camera when it's at full zoom. Any kind of vibration on it, and it kind of triggers it to lose its focus. But essentially what we do see is a lot of flat earth. The buildings that we're focusing on are the lighthouse, which essentially all of that should be gone. Curvature calcs would say that all of that lighthouse should not be seen at all from this location. Here's the incoming tide. I will be moving and running to try and stay away from this tide as it envelops the camera tripod and myself. I got very wet, but that's just the nature of the hunt, so to speak. So I'm going to play the video. You can see the water's coming in quite a lot. It does clear up, funnily enough. It looks very out of focus at the minute. I don't really want to skip it forward because I don't want people saying that I've run off down the beach and gone to a higher elevation or something. But essentially, when it gets to about this location here, so probably around about another minute or so, we'll get some nice clarity on the lighthouse and alike. So the curvature calcs say that these buildings that we're trying to see at this minute, camera's trying to focus, the very, very, very tops of these should only be visible. And the lighthouse, I'm just going to pause it in a moment, is actually here. It's very out of focus at the minute, but it does become a lot clearer when the camera actually focuses on it. I believe the lighthouse, I'm trying to think, is about, oh, well, here we go. Here's me having to run away from the incoming waters. Oh, no, not right now. Bear with me. Yeah, I think the lighthouse is about 14 miles away, if I remember correctly. I'm just trying to show you my leg against the tripod to give you an idea of how high it was. I'm showing you my location. This is the slipway at Ankersholm. So it's between Bisbam and Cleveleys. Are you still there, Nathan?
Yeah, just watching and listening. It's only a 5-minute video, so you might as well just let it play all through in its entirety. It's not like we're on any time restraint.
So what you're seeing here is you're seeing the tide's actually coming in pretty close now. And this is when I start to get the best clarity. I mean, the water actually touches the tripod and gets into my feet. Now, I'm going to try and pause it at certain points to show you how clear this does actually get. I believe it's just after this part, yeah. So here I am. I picked the tripod out of the incoming water. You can see the water's coming. It's enveloped me now. I've moved back about 2 or 3 feet, reset, and this is where we're going to see some fantastic flat Earth proofs. So there's the lighthouse. Here's the buildings that we've seen a lot of. I'm just pausing the video here. This is a sand dune that's in the line of sight of this particular building, and it's actually on the shoreline. It's part of the what you would call the sea wall of Barrow. So it's no more than 30 or 40 feet high, and we're seeing it at an elevation of what, half a foot or a foot. All the, like I say, the tippy tops of these buildings are what we should see right at the very tops. Nothing of the base. We're seeing all from previous experience, Nathan, you know as well as I do that this building, we're seeing all of this building. It's not very clear. It's just it was very windy and the conditions were horrendous to try and focus on today, but we can still see what we're seeing. Here we'll get the lighthouse. There we go. Look at that. The full lighthouse in view. All of that lighthouse should be gone. Shouldn't see a single thing of that. Here we have the town in Barrow. There's the clock tower. Again, it's so out of focus because the camera just wasn't doing it today in these winds. But and there's the sort of like semicircle building that's in the town as well that we've identified. You shouldn't see any of this building at all from this location. It shouldn't be there. You can actually see where the light is just starting to come on the lighthouse there. So yeah, it's astounding because I didn't think that I would see it today. I actually thought the wind would hamper the chances of actually getting under the refraction zone. It seems that isn't the case. It's the second time that I've gone down to this sort of elevation, and it's the second time that I've actually seen further and more clear on the day. I know it doesn't look it today, but I did some video in before this, and the clarity was nowhere near as good as this, and I don't even believe I saw quite as low as this. There's the full lighthouse. I'll just rewind it a tad and you'll see. We know that there's a sand dune in front of this lighthouse. Hang on. There we go. There's a building to the right of it. There's the sand dune is in front of it, just here. And you wouldn't see the bottom of any lower part of this building, but you can actually make out the roof. It's got 2 chimneys. There's two chimneys that are visible on this lighthouse. It has a building that's attached to it. You can actually just make out if you can, let me print screen this actually and see whether or not I can bring that up. But we are actually seeing the 2 chimneys of the building that's behind the sand dune.
While you screen grab, so just to summarise, you've gone down, you've seen that the clarity is pretty much awful, and then thought, oh, well, sod it, I'll just see if I can, as I have before, gone underneath this band of refraction that obscures everything, and try and capture it again. And lo and behold, you have.
Yep. Even though it was different conditions, today was incredibly windy. The other time there was next to no wind at all, and I thought that the wind would keep me from seeing it. In actual fact, it was pretty much the same. Obviously, the waves were higher, so all these waves that are in the way, eventually when you get to this sort of the horizon level, they are going to block out things in the distance. So essentially, we didn't get quite as low as the time that it was very still. But when you take into account that all of this lighthouse should be gone, every single part of that, the clock tower, you should only see the very tips of that. I mean, we're seeing buildings that are half the height of the clock tower. And there it is. It's not very clear, but it is the building. You know this from past
Well, in
videos.
essence, it's 18 miles shore to shore with no obstruction.
So it is. Again, you'll see the difficulties I had today in trying to get this footage. Every time I zoom in out, I'm zooming out now, and what I'll do is I'll be picking my tripod up out of the incoming tide. The tide is up to my, my trainers, and I'm running from it. I'm moving my camera back. I'm resetting. I'm trying to get this footage. I mean, the clarity, it does, in my opinion, it gets pretty. I mean, look at that. We know this building. We know that's how it looks. We know this is the sand dune. And to replicate it a second time shows that it was not a fluke. And clearly we're getting under that refraction zone, and we are just seeing shore to shore, like you just said. Shore to shore.
And this is different conditions again. I mean, on the other day, correct me if I'm wrong, you could actually still get it from a higher altitude. It's just it got clearer and less refracted, and refracted the opposite way when you got under the refraction band. Whereas in this instance, the clarity was 0 in terms of this distance, 18 miles, you couldn't see anything. But then you get under the refraction band, and lo and behold, it all pops into existence.
Yeah. And I might be able to show you on a prior video, actually, the actual conditions. Let me see if I can bring. I'm just showing you my location here. This is the slipway, Anchorstone slipway. Down on the beach again, right next to the water. There can be no denying where I am. I'll try and see if I can find a video that was done before this to show you.
Is there, before you do come off this, though, is there anything else in this video? Because you got to about 3 or 4 minutes of a 5-minute video, I think.
Actually, there was, and to be fair, I'll show you this because I don't know what it was. I know it was a buoy. It's still in the same video, and I saw it, and it was a long way away. In my opinion, it was probably not quite as far as the wind turbines, but not far off. So it was at least probably 10 miles away. And I was seeing this entire buoy. You can obviously see that that's the entirety of the buoy. And again, I was at the same level, a half a foot to a foot above the actual water at this time. Essentially, this, I think if you was on the curvature calcs on a ball, half a foot, you might be able to see a mile. Clearly, this was a long way away. I think I'll show you, I zoom into it, actually. I'd like to try and find out what it was and where it was. I have a rough idea, but I've tried to locate it. I just can't pick up the information on where to find it. But it did appear a very long way away. There's actually a boat that's nearer. I'm sure I'll pan through that as well. And there's another buoy to the right-hand side of this, which is a green navigational buoy. But this one, I can't identify it, but I'm sure it must have been about 10 miles away. So the fact that we're actually seeing it on the entirety of it was what made me actually focus on it and film it.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome. So
without having the proof to say, okay, it was 10 miles away and it was this buoy, I don't have that right now.
Doesn't matter. You got Barrow and Finesse at 18 miles. Who cares? I mean, it's an interesting folly, and it's on this video, so it's worth having a look at. But if I'll minimise the hangout just so you can search out your next video.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll just. I think it's just on the previous video. It's. Yeah, I think this is it. Yeah, if you just want to reshare me again.
Yeah.
Okay, so the darker area of sand that runs along here is probably all the same height. I mean, when I was coming back later on, as I was running from the tide, all this was coming like in a semicircle, and it was cutting me off. So I had to run up. There's a little embankment here. It's probably about 1.5 feet or 2 feet higher than the darker area. So all this darker area is the same height essentially, and this is a little higher. It's like a little ramp. So I'm filming from this location, and in my opinion, when I was filming it, it seemed that trying to see the same sort of. I mean, look at this. That building that I saw from half a foot was much clearer than this. This is all wavy. These buildings are not straight. They're all bent. They're all crooked. The roofs are all crooked. This isn't how they are in the real world. In the real world, they're nice and flat. Everything's flat. This building is nicely, you know, you're able to see all the curves on it and everything, even the rooftop. And this is from a higher elevation. So this is essentially, this is probably from about 10 feet in height. And it looks, in my opinion, more unclear. And we're not seeing any lower than we were down when we were at 1/2 foot, because this sandbank that you can just make out is the same sandbank that we saw from 1/2 foot. But at 1/2 foot, we also saw this building much clearer, and all the rest of the building is much clearer. This tower seems to be shrunken, you know, it seems to be compressed slightly, whereas when I was at 1/2 foot, it seemed to be in the correct proportions. Just everything about looking at it from a higher elevation just seemed, in my opinion, to be more difficult and not as clear.
Yeah, I think at this level you are absolutely horizontal with the buildings, therefore you're sat right on that refraction band. And as you say, I mean, I know Anthony before the call was asking, did it feel like you were looking up at them? And you were like, well, yeah, because you are literally below their line, slightly angling the camera up across the flat plane to capture them, and getting below this messy, I know it gets called dirty air refraction band, I don't care what it gets called, whatever it is that's causing that obstruction, or that, in this instance, I thought it'd be more severe. You know, you can still see this stuff from slightly higher up, it's just refracted and wavy, whereas when you get lower, it's nice and crisp and clear.
Yeah, but you can't. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can't. I mean, on the lower image, we were able to make out the light on it, and you can see the structure and everything on it. This, it's all wavy and distorted and horrible to look at. You wouldn't know what that was if you didn't know it was a lighthouse. You would never be able to guess it was a lighthouse.
No, correct.
And this is from a higher elevation, so you can see I'm at a higher elevation. I'm further away from the tide. Obviously, on the next video, I'm in the same location, you know, just showing you. In the next video, I'll just show you again. It does seem to clear up. It's not this video, is it? The next one after that. This one, yeah. So that's me moving my tripod. So yeah, in this one, when I reset now and I zoom in, I'm right by the water. And when we look at the lighthouse again, you'll see the difference. So there's all the buildings. They look a lot clearer. You can see the sharpness of the roofs. There's the lighthouse. When it refocuses again in a minute, it's even clearer. So yeah, I think getting lower will take you out of that dirty air, that refraction zone, and you can see a lot further. And even on bad days as well. I mean, today was really difficult filming today. And it was just as the tide was coming in again. So maybe that has something to do with it too.
Have you been in touch with Sandra in regards to a different person replicating this? Because obviously it's now twice that you've got this, which is wonderful, but you're one person. So in the case of Morgord Lighthouse, you went out and replicated what Anthony had caught. But it'd be nice if Sandra went out and got this as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll ask her to try and do that. But can you see this lighthouse now? It's not wavy.
Yes.
It's very clear. You can actually see a light on it too.
Can you play the video through just so we can see that light actually playing in real time?
I'll try. It's just getting it to the camera to focus. Like I say, the conditions are really difficult. There we go. You can actually. I'm trying to focus. I know it's a bit wavy. I'm trying to run from the water. You'll have to excuse my running. But right now I'm picking the camera up in my tripod and running from the water because I'm getting wet. So I'll refocus again, and I think you'll see it now. But look at these buildings, the rooftops on the buildings look, can you see how straight they look? They're not wavy, they're clear. Much clearer than the higher elevation. And here we have the lighthouse, hopefully it'll focus. And look, can you see the design of this? You can see this type of structure of this building.
It's as clear as the last one you got.
It is.
Incredible. From a couple of feet.
And they always say, go and repeat it. Why can't you repeat it? You know, I mean, we have a certain ball earth proponent who's doing the same sort of footage over a similar distance and getting a lot of refraction in his footage. I think I've shown quite clearly that from the higher elevation, a slightly higher elevation, you can make this lighthouse look, you know, wavy and distorted. So if you get into the right exact height at the right angle, you can make things appear to look different than they actually are in real life.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to add to this, Ranty, or is that pretty much it?
Well, I'm happy to go along and try and film it again and again and again and again, because it's all new to me. I never expected to see this, never expected to see it on a windy day. And maybe when it's not quite as windy, it'll probably be better, simply because the P900 shakes too much when it's windy, because you're extending the lens on it. And because you're right down low and you're coming straight, the wind's coming straight off the ocean, you're the first thing it hits. And that camera gets buffeted around a lot, and that's why it's so shaky. And it goes in and out of focus quite a lot. But when it does actually focus, it's really great stuff.
Cool.
So yeah, that's all I kind of want to say. That's today's stuff.
Well, massive thank you, Ranty. That was absolutely awesome. Thanks for presenting that to us again. Cool, very cool flat Earth evidence, globe smashing stuff.
No worries at all. Happy to do it. Happy to get my feet wet.
Yeah, I said to Anthony just before I dropped from this call, you know, it's good when you guys are actually getting out there and getting in the thick of it, and getting your feet wet in this instance is the name of the game. So yeah, massive thanks again to Ranty for presenting that to us. That's absolutely smashing. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe. And if you hated the video, you know what to do. But if you liked the video, consider sharing it with a friend and subscribing if you've not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in... Oh, you're going to say goodbye as well? I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.